Welcome to the Broken Pencil Booking Company Pro Wrestling Podcast and radio show Infused with Hip Hop. I am Wood.
Made daily with organic, farm to table, localized, neuralized, sterilized, Scotch guarded for 2020 repellent, available online, shipped via Amazon, not available on Sundays, but now available on thebeastradio.com. Broken Pencil Logic. You stay classy, internet. I'm Suave Burgundy.
Ooh-wee. If you can see the things that we have to deal with on this end over here.
Boy.
First and foremost, today is Thursday, December 16th. Year of our Lord.
Year of our Lord.
I said year of our Lord.
Year of our Lord.
20 and 21.
Amen.
Happy National Podcasters Day.
And because it's National Chocolate Covered Anything Day.
Oh.
Happy birthday to my wife.
Oh. Happy birthday to El Presidente.
You feel me?
You know what I'm saying? We got the mayor's constituency while the missus out here running for office like she campaigning for the Black House.
You feel what I'm saying? So we here for a good time, not a long time, because I have prior obligations.
And I said Podcast Thursday. It's actually National Podcast Day. However, you can't have a podcast without podcasters. I never heard a robot conduct a podcast. Yet. Coming soon, but that ain't going to be over here. Episode 139, we had on Jerry Bostic, a.k.a. The Boss, World Class Pro Wrestling, President and CEO, and also had on Tony Snow. We bring back the family member. You know what I'm saying? Tony Snow.
Can't ban the snowman.
This time, this time's a little different. Tony is a friend, a real friend to the show, friend of me. I'm a friend of his.
Pencil pusher extraordinaire, bitches.
Mark that. Yeah, that's going on the trigger.
But here's what's crazy. We've never gone through your accolades, and there's a reason why I want to do this right now. So tell me, or tell the Pencil Pusher Massive, all the things that you are currently doing and what you have done in this professional wrestling industry.
Well, currently doing, I started out in pro wrestling almost 5 years ago. I got into it with Ring of Honor. And Ian Riccaboni and Gary Juster welcomed me in. I learned a lot from Gary Juster. A lot of people don't know his name, but he's one of the few, if not the only person that was an executive for WCW, WWF, WWE, pretty much everyone. He worked for Eric Bischoff, worked for Vince. And so right from the get-go, I was spoiled because I got to learn from one of the greatest color commentators in this era, Ian Riccaboni, and a master when it comes to the business in Gary Juster. And so then I was able to kind of branch out from there into other wrestling promotions. And since then, in the past 5 years, I work for 7 different pro wrestling companies. I have all access with most of them because I'm a producer. I do audio and video. I make all the theme musics for a lot of these promotions. I've also worked backstage and creative and stuff. So it's funny whenever somebody, especially in the past week when I've spoken to people about what we're going to talk about, I've gotten met with a little bit of doubt at first. People will be like, man, I don't have any idea who you are. Who are you to talk about this? And my response is kind of like when I met $1 Million Man as a youngster. I told him, man, I used to hate you when you were on TV. And he said, well, that's good. That means I'm doing my job. And in the position that I'm at, if you know who I am, I'm not really doing my job because my job is to make the wrestlers in front of me and the guys that are putting their lives on the line in the ring look as good as I possibly can by means of various forms of media. So I work in production for just a ton of different companies right now. Now,
that said, you invited us to an event, which is the event where we actually we finally met Teddy Long face to face. That had a long conversation with him, just chopped it up, just had a damn good time. And at this event, it was a TV taping for an organization that shall remain nameless as they are no longer relevant for a number of reasons. And I'm not trying to throw shade or anything like that. It's just this what's in the past is in the past, and there's better things in the future for the people in that organization, as well as yourself, who was a part of that organization, and especially Teddy Long, which our heartfelt wishes and prayers go out to Teddy Long and his family for what he's dealing with right now as well. That said, we saw who I knew as at that time as Blood Hunter throw a hotel chair, not a folding chair, not a gimmick chair, an actual banquet chair at a rookie, and it hit him in the skull with I'm probably about 20 rows back. I'm completely out of dodge. I have a bird's eye view from the catbird seat, literally away from the ring, and I heard this with probably close to 1,000 people in this hotel room, and the sound was more like a boom, and everybody in the crowd just said, ah. Typically when like you have like a chair shot or like a wild hit, it's like, ooh. This one was like fear and fright from the crowd.
Real quick, I'm just gonna stop you there, and I don't mean to correct you, but he didn't really throw the chair. That would have been one thing, because when you let go of the chair, sometimes you don't know where it's gonna land. This guy overbrained this kid. 2 hands went down for him.
Okay, I'm sorry. He cracked the chair.
Hitting a car.
What? Can you repeat the last part again?
It sounded like a baseball bat hitting a car.
Yeah.
The sound from it. It was sickening. It was bad. And not only was Pac Ortega a rookie, he was a student. That was one of his first matches.
And the locker room came out to more so to try to get a handle on him, when no one really knew that they should have been trying to get a handle on Blood Hunter. It didn't dawn on me until this nonsense that happened at World Class Pro Wrestling Star Wars, Christmas Star Wars here in Irving, Texas, back on the 11th. It didn't dawn on me that Blood Hunter was fucking Hannibal.
Teddy took decisive action. Teddy went over and started talking to Blood Hunter before he even took his mask off, and Teddy sent him back to Canada for being unsafe. To tell you what type of impact this shot had, and the thing that really sickened me is afterwards, Hannibal kept trying to blame it on the kid, saying he didn't get his hands up in time, and then kind of downplaying what happened. Like, oh, he went to the hospital, but he was let out in 3 hours after they stitched him up. Like it was nothing. It was like he was trying to defer it. But anyway, I hired a friend of mine. Hannibal asked me, because I've known Hannibal since he came on at SWE. Hannibal asked me if I knew any photographers in Dallas that he could pay to be his personal photographer for that show. He did the same thing for Star Wars, which we'll talk about. But I brought my buddy Justin Livingston.
What up, J-Liv?
And Justin Livingston is still shook up to this day, because when Hannibal brained Pac Ortega with that chair, it literally sliced his scalp open and flipped his skin back. And Justin was there looking at Pac's skull. Like, his skull was exposed.
Oh, dub deuce D's. Yikes.
Yeah. Exactly. So I just wanted to clarify that as you were talking about, that incident at the Statler.
Man. So now that was very much under the radar. I just happened to be in attendance for that nonsense. Making national and international news is this incident from Christmas Star Wars. Please, you were there for that as well, working with World Class. Please elaborate. Like, let us know your account of what happened.
All right, so I get to the show. I get there early, of course, and go around, collect all the music from everybody, because World Class is they've got this awesome TV deal in place, and starting in January, they'll be running monthly, and it'll be broadcast. So this was the last month that I could play unlicensed mainstream music, which, if you know independent wrestling, 90% of the talent uses licensed mainstream music. Like, whether it's something that they work out to or it's one of their favorite artists or something, they like coming out to what they come out to. It gets them pumped up, blah, blah, blah. Well, when you're on TV, you can't do that unless you pay licensing fees. Also, if you have unlicensed music on a YouTube video of the show, then YouTube can copyright claim that and keep your entire episode from any monetization at all. I've been telling the guys, hey guys, if you want anything, I'll get it the day of the show. So I'm going around collecting music from everybody. It comes to a point where I have everybody's music but Hannibal's. Now, I knew from the past that Hannibal liked coming out to no music. I always thought it was ridiculous. He always thought it was the heelish thing to do, which whatever, we know how much he really knows about wrestling. You can watch any of his shoot interviews and you can see how little he knows about the business, because he asks people questions that you should never ask somebody if you knew a thing of what they did.
It's like he's just trying to get people to hate him in real life, which why? Why would you?
I don't know. Controversy creates cash and things. But anyway, so I couldn't find Hannibal. I couldn't find him anywhere. Now, Southern Junction is like a labyrinth backstage, and that's going to be important near the end of the story, because when you go up the ramp, you go through where Gorilla, I guess, would be. There's nothing there. It's a replica of the Alamo. So you have to go through the Alamo entrance. You turn right, and there's a hallway. You go down that hallway, it leads to a door. You knock on that door, and you ask for poop. No, I'm joking. Anyway, you go to the hallway. You come to a door, you open the door, it's an office. You go through that office, it opens up into a common area with tons of other offices around it. You go through that area, through another hallway, and you go around a corner, and then you're finally in the locker room. I'm not even joking, man. It takes forever, and I actually got lost trying to find my way back to the locker room. It's that crazy. Plus, the site's under construction too back there. They're renovating. So it's like this whole backstage labyrinth that looks like the house from Home Alone lost in New York. You know, like stuff's hanging everywhere and there's orange tape and stuff everywhere. Finally get back there. I can't find Hannibal. Justin Livingston shows up because Hannibal wanted to hire him again for this show. So he shows up and he's like, yeah, man, I can't find Hannibal anywhere. They're telling me that he's hiding back in the back drunk. And I'm like, well, damn. And so immediately the minute he said that, I start to worry. Because I've seen wrestlers get in the ring drunk and hurt other people. You know, I saw one wrestler get in the ring drunk and he gigged another wrestler and he gigged them too deep. And there was just a pool of the man's blood in the ring afterwards. And afterwards, people from the show would talk about, hey, don't wrestle someone who's drunk. Don't wrestle drunk. You just don't do that because you're taking someone's life in your hands. And so time goes on. It gets closer and closer. Show's about to start. And then Justin comes back to me and he's like, well, I found Hannibal and he's drunk. He'd been in the back in an RV drinking all the way leading up to the show. So he wasn't even in the locker room, wasn't going over his match, wasn't hanging out with the boys, wasn't, doing practicing any camaraderie or any respect to the business. He was in an RV out back drunk. So the time comes for the show. I see my buddy Lando there, who's a referee. And Lando was brought in for a specific reason. We'll get to that in a minute. But the match starts, and my buddy, who's the ring announcer, I'm up above the ring. I'm in the crow's nest, they call it. The sound booth at Southern Junction is elevated, and so I had about probably a 40-degree angle down to the ring. I could see everything that happened in the ring, everything that happened around the ring. I could see up to the walkway. I could see all the ways to the back and all that. I had the best seat in the house, which it should be because it was my job to keep the video screens up and running with who was wrestling in the match, to keep the graphics up, and be able to tell the cues when the match ended to play the music. So Jason James, the ring announcer, I guess he was unaware that Hannibal didn't have any music. So he goes to introduce Hannibal, and the music doesn't start. And instead of Hannibal appearing at the stage, there's silence, like nothing. And so he starts looking around, and he looks up at me, and he's shrugging his shoulders. And I'm trying to tell him, Bloodhunter doesn't have music. This whole time, I'm thinking that maybe, Jason just doesn't realize this, and that's what's holding it up. Well, a few minutes later, like literally minutes later, we were waiting that long, Bloodhunter appears in the doorway.
So he's Hollywooding the whole situation with no music.
I think he was drunk, man.
Wow.
Because he finally makes it to the doorway and he's moving much slower than he usually does. Now, I have been in production and sat through probably about 6 or 7 Bloodhunter matches at this point. Okay. I know the way the man moves. I know the pace and the style that he walks. I know how he acts. And he was just super lethargic, man. It just took him forever to get to the ring. He slowly walked down to the ring. He had Blaze, his real life girlfriend and manager, with him, and Kevin Sullivan with him. They were both walking behind him. And by the time he finally gets into the ring, he tries to stand up on the second rope to top the crowd, and he almost falls down off of the second rope. Like, he slips. He's messed up. And the referee Colby notices this, and he's spoken to different news outlets. He's made written articles on Reddit talking about how he could tell Hannibal was messed up, and how as soon as Carlito got to the ring, he told Carlito, the dude's messed up, get this done, GTFO. And I'm pretty sure I saw the moment that happened, because I remember seeing right before the match started, Colby talking to Carlito, and Carlito just kind of looked at him in kind of a surprised look. You know what I'm saying? And so the match started, and I'm using air quotes when I say match because it was a dumpster fire. Bloodhunter was obviously out of it. He wasn't listening to anything the ref was saying to him. The ref at one point was even almost yelling at him, and he wasn't listening. And there came a time in the match where Andrew Anderson, Kevin Sullivan, Bloodhunter, and Blaze were trying to reform the Dungeon of Doom, make it a new Dungeon of Doom, new faction. And so Andrew Anderson, especially since he's been traveling with Kevin Sullivan, has been bringing golden spikes with him for his merch table. These are legit Iron Railroad spikes.
The same one you showed me from the show at the Statler.
Exactly. And when I went live on Facebook to talk about this, I showed the spike live on the air. This is a 2 to 3 pound spike, it feels like. I'm sure it's not that much, but it feels heavy. It's iron and it's spray painted gold. Andrew gave this to me when I asked him about the golden spike at Lava Cantina last year. And so I took it, I got Andrew to sign it, I got Kevin Sullivan to sign it, and I have it as a paperweight on my desk. But Andrew Anderson comes down to the ring, and he slides a golden spike into the ring to Bloodhunter. Now, in Bloodhunter's response to the TMZ article, he lied. He said that this was a prop given to him by World Class. It was given to him by Andrew Anderson. And he also said that it was the same spike that Kevin Sullivan used on Dusty Rhodes in 1984. I have no idea where that came from, because that's a complete lie. This is a spike that Andrew Anderson spray painted gold and sells at his merch table. And so the spike gets slid in. Carlito picks it up, looks kind of surprised at it. Bloodhunter comes from across the ring, gives Carlito a big boot, and then rolls him up in one of the worst roll-ups I've ever seen executed in my entire life, and much less my career in wrestling. This was horrible. A schoolboy could do the schoolboy roll-up better. And the match ended. Well, when the match ended, Andrew Anderson and Carlito started fighting. Carlito knocked Andrew outside. Bloodhunter just starts going after refs. At this point, my buddy Lando comes down to the ring. Now, I don't think I'm exposing the business when I talk about this. I think a lot of pencil pushers are in the know enough to where they know certain things happen. It's a show. It is simulated combat with a predetermined outcome. That's pro wrestling, okay? And so there was supposed to be a ref spot. Lando was brought in for this job. Lando did not referee any of the other matches. Lando was brought in because he can bleed. He's not afraid to cut himself, and he bleeds pretty well, which is a bad thing to say, I guess, about somebody. It seems like it, right? But anyway, so he was hired to come in and give juice. And they even had an extra canvas on the ring. They put the Bloodhunters match as last up before intermission, so that after Lando did bleed, they'd be able to take the canvas off and there wouldn't be blood everywhere. Does that make sense?
Yes, indeed.
It was all planned. So Lando was in the back. I saw him moments before it happened, man. I talked to him, had a small conversation, gave him a hug. I want to tell you guys, this happened to the sweetest man in the world, dude. Lando, there's nobody that can say anything bad about him. He's a decorated Army veteran. He was a medic that saw action in Iraq. He was in Fallujah.
Just to be clear, Lando is the referee who was spiked. That was in the clip that's floating around TMZ.
Yes. Lando was the victim here, and so he's given his life for the country. he just lost his wife like 3 months ago. He's a fresh widow, and he brought his daughter with him to the show. So Lando goes down to the ring. Blood Hunter grabs him, and Blood Hunter didn't just grab him, to mess with him, whatever. From the looks of it, he had malicious intent in mind, because he grabbed him and he picked him up by his throat from behind and put his knee into his back. So he's sitting here with Lando on the ground on his stomach. He's got a knee into Lando's back, and he's prying back up on him with around his neck, choking him out. Lando was literally unconscious before he could even cut himself, right? And so that's when a lot of footage in the video starts. You see Lando getting choked, and you see Blood Hunter. First, he starts by scraping the spike on Lando's forehead. And then I guess when that didn't produce enough blood, he starts legitimately stabbing Lando in the cranium with the spike. And again, in his response video to TMZ, he keeps saying he thought he was holding the spike low enough to where it wasn't hitting him, and he couldn't see it because of the mesh covering his eyes. It's like, dude, if you couldn't see, you had no business trying a freaking spot.
That part.
Second of all, the way he was holding the spike, it was obvious, and I can show you the spike I have. It is an exact replica of the one that was used. If he was holding the spike down to the bottom, much more of the spike would have been sticking out of the top of his fist than there was in the videos. So there's no way he was holding it to just where his hand would be hitting Lando's head like he said he was. So he keeps spiking Lando on the head. Everyone in the crowd is just silent and kind of shocked at what's going on. But at this point, people still think it's part of the show. The guy who was sitting next to me worked for Southern Junction, and he kept telling me that he pro wrestled for almost 30 years. He was trained by this person, trained by that person. And when it happened, he kept saying, oh, this is part of the show, man. But I had a feeling it wasn't. I was standing up in my production spot, and my eyes were transfixed on Lando. Blood Hunter wouldn't stop. At this point, referees came out and were surrounding the ring. Certain executives that were close were surrounding the ring, trying to get Blood Hunter to stop. Aaron Presley finally reached in, grabbed Lando by the legs, and pulled Lando out of the ring. And Lando left the ring like a limp noodle. There was no life to him whatsoever. And he left a trail of blood that looked like something in a Halloween horror movie, man. It was bad.
Wow.
Lando hits the ground and he flattens right out. He's unconscious. He didn't make any effort to break his fall or nothing. He landed straight on the mat and he didn't move because my eyes stayed transfixed on this guy. We would find out later that his body was going through shock. I forget the actual name of the shock, but he lost over 1.5 liters of blood. And so when that happens, your body goes through shock from your organs not being able to get the blood that they had been getting. His body shut down. He was out of it. So at this point, I run down to the ring. I'm literally right over the shoulder of the people that are attending to Lando. Chaz Taylor and NWA Legends right next to me. He's in disbelief. You know, everyone that was that close knew that this was not a freaking work, man. At one point, Lando kind of jerked to life, and he let out one of the most blood-curdling screams I've ever heard. That was him regaining consciousness from the shock and from being choked out. And then he kind of lost consciousness again. And at that point, the Irving EMTs were there. Irving Police Department has showed up. And in one of the most sickening displays in my life, I look up and I see Blood Hunter, who Devin Hannibal Nicholson, who years ago was cut without permission from Abdullah the Butcher, contracted hepatitis, sued Abdullah and won a judgment for $2.3 million.
Jesus Christ.
Why he even wrestles as the Blood Hunter in a gimmick where he draws blood from his opponents when he got cured from hepatitis after being stabbed without permission. I don't know why he's doing it. Maybe he's sadistic. Maybe he thinks he's getting revenge on Abdullah by stabbing all these people. I don't know. But he's sitting in the ring on his knees and he's running his hands into the pool of Lando's blood and he's rubbing it all over his chest, almost in like a sexual type of way.
No.
No. And so people keep attending to Lando. I look over and I see Blood Hunter exiting the men's bathroom. His chest is clean now. He's washed off all the blood, but he's got a towel over his head. And he walks to the room, through the door to the back room, and he's followed immediately by the Irving Police Department. So Lando gets taken out, and the next day, man, Hannibal posts a video on Facebook talking about how kayfabe is still alive and all this crap. And I made some comments on there, and he reported my comments as harassment and bullying. So I spent 3 days in Facebook jail.
Which is sucker shit.
And so I'm just, over the past few days, man, I've just been inundated with people. And it's been rough seeing all these people spouting lies and spouting false narratives, calling it a work, saying they know what went on. Here's what really went on. All this stuff when they don't. And
I don't give a fuck, man. You sent me 2 pictures, bro. You sent me 2 pictures with at least, I'm trying to think. Actually, you sent me 3. One picture had at least a pint of blood in it on the hotel. I mean, on a hospital bed on a gurney. And then the other 2 pictures had, I counted 9 staples.
Yeah, and
those the cranium staples of Lando.
Those staples have since been removed because Lando's contracted a blood infection from the gold paint on the spike. And he's actually having more treatment now. He's had to go back to the hospital 3 times, man. And so, I got tired of the people saying that. I got tired of the people that were like, oh, there had to have been monitors in the back room. The back room should have seen this and been right out there. Well, no, there wasn't. Out of all the professional companies I work for, I can count about 2 of them that actually have monitors in the locker room. Believe it or not everybody has the budget that AEW has. And then the second thing that really got me heated is, if this was real, then all the vets in the locker room would have been beating him down in the ring. He wouldn't have been able to walk out of that building. Well, first of all, it took everybody minutes to get to the ring. I spoke earlier about how the back room area was like a labyrinth. And when they did get out to the ring, everyone's attention was on saving Lando's life. Which, when it comes down to it, I would have much rather than be concerned more with saving Lando's life than getting revenge on Bloodhunter immediately. And then when Bloodhunter did go to the back, one of the referees started yelling at him. And, Irving Police was right there. One of the refs started yelling at him, saying you could have killed him. And he almost started to come at one of the refs, man, in front of the cops. And Jacob Fatu, one of the most stand-up guys in the business I know, was ready to smash Bloodhunter right then, bro.
Whole lot of fucking gang shit.
Yes, Jacob Fatu was ready to just crush him, and people held Fatu back because the cops were right there.
And why am I so not surprised?
At that point, they all yelled at him to leave, and Bloodhunter left. And the next thing I know, he's already back in Canada the next day. And he hid the spike that he used. They can't find the weapon. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure that he hid it so that he could always say, oh, the blood's from the blade. He did that to himself if it comes down to it. But, I mean, that's the main gist, man. That's what all happened. Hannibal was drunk. I'm kind of upset, and I will say this. I'm kind of upset and disappointed in Kevin Sullivan because he's been around forever, and he let Hannibal get out and wrestle in the condition he was in. As Hannibal's manager, he shouldn't have let that happen. And then after the fact as well, Kevin Sullivan told one of the refs to kayfabe the cops. Yeah, and he told me to tell the cops it was all part of the show. And thirdly, I just want to say, Jerry Bostic, it's his company, but what happened were the results of one man. And I'm getting really tired of people who not only weren't there, but some of them were hundreds or even thousands of miles away that have had problems with Jerry Bostic in the past. And they're using this to bury him. It's selfish, it's immature, and it's cowardly chicken shit.
And Jerry's a stand-up guy, man. If he wasn't a stand-up guy, we wouldn't have had him on our fucking show.
You're literally taking the spotlight off of the blame on Hannibal and shifting it to Jerry because of what he did to you. And so you're saying that, oh, my feelings are more important than what's going on. Screw Jerry. That's sucker shit, that's chicken shit, and whoever's doing it. And I know there's people I'm close to. There's people that I love and care for that I've called brothers that are using this, and they're posting almost every day, getting on the it's Jerry's fault, let's bury Jerry bandwagon. Fuck you, buddy. Because you're taking this shit and you're making it about something that's not. Jerry Bostic did the responsible thing. He cut ties with Hannibal right away. He's planned a fundraiser show for Lando. He's cooperating with everyone that's talking to him. I judge people on my dealings with him, and he's always been nothing but respectful to me. He's paid me on time. He's been kind and courteous to me, both over messages and in person. So anybody that is trying to shift blame from to anyone from Hannibal on this, you can go fuck yourself. And I said that.
And there's no better way to leave than that, man. Happy holidays to you and yours. Let's see here. Rest in peace to Hub of the Roots. Rest in peace to Jimmy Rave. And also shouts out to M. Slago for the release of the Spaz after a 10-year building of this project. Nothing else to say after all this money talk, man. Suave, take us to the house one last time for 2021.
Pencil pushers. Heads up. Pencils down.
There it is. Straight like that. Straight like that.